Richard Rodgers stated in his autobiography, Musical Stages, that his favorite musical was Carousel. Oscar never wrote more meaningful or more moving lyrics, and to me, my score is more satisfying than any I've ever written. Conceived in the same revolutionary vein as Oklahoma, Rodgers and Hammerstein seemed to move even further with the new dramatic conviction that they had used. Today we will look at one of the most written about sections of Carousel, Billy's Soliloquy. We will take the techniques of musical semiotics and genre theory and do a deep dive into what the work really means. My name is Dr. Dominique Royam, and I'm a music director, conductor, and music communicator, here to help you achieve a deeper connection to the music you love. Follow me on social media at Dominique Royam for more content. Let's talk about Soliloquy. Soliloquy has been hotly debated since the show's premiere in 1945. The number was the starting point from which Carousel was conceived. In Musical Stages, Roger commented, "The notion for a soliloquy in which, at the end of the first act, the leading character would reveal his varied emotions about impending fatherhood was the linchpin in the musical conception of the play Lilium. 270 measures long, it far outlasts any musical number in the show. Many theorists and historians have tackled the idea of form for the number, agreeing on the main points. Gerald Mast in Can't Help But Singing calls it the single most conspicuously operatic passage in any Rodgers and Hammerstein show. Scott McMillan in The Musical as Drama reaches a little further and says the number is two songs strung together to give the impression of an aria because of the musical structure that is open to the character's expressiveness. These descriptions illustrate the connection between opera and sincere emotion, and he also calls it a pseudo-aria. Bloch, in Enchanted Evenings, begins his comments about Carousel with Rodgers' admission that the soliloquy was foundational number of the show, but does not talk about the number itself, just the motivic similarities between the number's melodic material and other character-driven moments from the rest of the show. Joseph P. Swain, in the Broadway musical, gives the most accurate description of the number available in the literature when he states that soliloquy is constructed on just two passages that could be detached as separate songs, surrounded by a variety of connective pseudo-recitative. He also states that the elaborate form, changing textures, and ability to reflect a number of emotional changes is not confined to soliloquy, but is woven throughout the show. However, when soliloquy is analyzed against the backdrop of operatic form, the impressions of operatic convention and arianess drop away and reveal actual operatic structure. The two sections that Swain thinks can be detached as separate songs are measures 42 through 151, the My Boy Bill section, and measures 222 through 270, the My Little Girl section, including the end of the song. Swain calls the other 114 measures pseudo-recitative without identifying any further organizational structure. This leaves 42 measures before My Boy Bill and 71 measures before My Little Girl, left with the interpretation of pseudo-recitative. This seems to undercut the importance of this connecting material. Due to the central importance of the number, it seems a misreading of the form to dismiss a formal block large enough to be its own musical number. Comparing soliloquy with Solita Forma, however, makes all the music formally necessary. If you would like a primer on La Solita Forma, check out my video on the subject. I'll link it here. This comparison can be made when Gosset's notion of static and kinetic material are applied to the libretto. Gosset defines a musical movement as kinetic when action takes place or emotional positions are developed, and static when emotions or situations are contemplated. These terms refer to the dramatic situation of each section, not necessarily to any specific musical activity. By focusing on the dramatic situation and not the musical materials, Gosset avoids any issue that plagues analysis of the interpretation of operatic form. It allows many seemingly unconnected sections of musical material to be knitted together in the service of the drama. Using this dramaturgical rubric to organize Soliloquy, the number breaks down into musical sections that mirror La Solita Forma. The main dramatic point of contention in Soliloquy is the realization of what Julie's pregnancy means to Billy. The kinetic sections of the number entail Billy creating a vision, while the static sections correspond to Billy experiencing this fully formed vision. The change in the dramatic energy in these sections is reflected in the key structure, with kinetic sections in minor to reflect their unfinished nature, and the static sections in major to underline the completeness of Billy's vision. Minor signifies the unfinished because of the mode's failure to achieve the expected major. Furthermore, the kinetic sections contain mostly I statements for Billy, and the static sections contain he or she statements, mirroring a move from selfishness to selflessness as the idea of his child takes form in his mind. Most arias do not contain tempo d'attacco sections because the scena has already set up the purpose and emotional backdrop of the number. However, due to the nature of the number, Soliloquy contains a tempo d'attacco. The shocking realization of Julie's pregnancy is not worked out in the scena because another character, Mrs. Mullen, enters and interrupts the dramatic flow. This sets up the need for the tempo d'attacco. The drama requires more time to work out before the first lyric movement can happen. Billy interrogates himself and gauges his own reaction to the idea of becoming a father. The tempo d'attacco also serves a function as a verse from the musical theater verse-chorus form, allowing Rodgers to superimpose both the musical theater form and La Solita Forma, effectively hiding the operatic form until the number needs to move past the musical theater form dramatically. In this instance, it seems that Rodgers forgoes the scena of recitative and used a verse tempo attacco approach instead. It is interesting to note that the section is more than twice the length of the 16-bar normative pattern found by Wood, belying the formal deformation that runs through the piece. The tempo d'attacco section is 37 bars in length, discounting the 4-bar introduction of distinct musical material. The section is in B minor, with a distinctive pattern of a 2-1 suspension oscillating per bar, with a 7-8 suspension, reinforcing the instability and restless quality of the minor key. Underpinning this localized tonal obscurity, Billy's first words are not about the child, but about himself. The statement, "I wonder what he'll think of me," in measures 9 through 11, illustrates Billy's focus, himself. The entire section focuses on how the child will see Billy, "I guess he'll call me the old man," and what defining characteristics Billy, or Billy's agent, the child's mother, will give the child. "I'll teach him the wrestle, his mother can teach him the way to behave." Billy does not speak of the child as an independent entity at any time during the whole section. Billy's conception of his child can be seen coalescing during the section by the way he uses language. In the beginning of the section, Billy uses words that indicate doubt, such as wonder, guess, and bet. As the tempo of the section accelerates, as indicated in the score, the language of doubt is replaced by active verbs, such as teach, dive, and go. This change is reflected in the score in the lack of suspensions from measure 26 onward, matching the new tempo designation. The characteristic rhythm, quarter half, continues throughout the section and is used as an agent of modulation. Through all of this, Billy still refers to the child indirectly, through his behavior to the child, not the child itself.
I wonder what you'll think of me. I guess you'll call me the old man. I guess you'll think I can lick every other fella's father. Well, I can. I bet that he'll turn out to be the spitting image of his dad. But he'll have more common sense than his pudding-headed father ever had. I'll teach him to wrestle and dive through a wave when we go in the mornings for a swim. His mother can teach him the way to behave, but she won't make a sissy out of him. Not him, not my boy, not
The first lyric movement begins in measure 42. The movement's typical name, adagio, is an unfortunate match for this number, but remember that adagio is just shorthand for any significant tempo change, slower to faster, that delineates dramatic sections. In Soliloquy, the first lyric movement begins at the allegro. The most important change between this tempo d'attacco and the first lyric movement is the change in dramatic focus. In the previous movement, Billy focused on himself and could be seen creating a vision of a child. Once the first lyric movement begins, however, Billy's focus is exclusively on Bill, his child. This change from creating a vision to experiencing a vision is a move from kinetic action to static action, exactly Gosset's requirement for a change in large formal movements. It is interesting to note that Billy calls his child Bill. He states that the child is named after him. I will see that he's named after me, I will, but does not use the diminutive form that everyone uses for him, choosing instead the more masculine form. This partial change of respectability level, partial because he doesn't call his child William, just Bill, illustrates Billy's desire for his child to be what he is not, to be better than what he is. This is carried out throughout the movement by the laundry list of attributes that Billy gives Bill. He'll be tall and as tough as a tree. You won't see nobody dare to try and boss him or toss him around. The importance of the name Bill is also underlined by its place as the impetus for the adagio movement. The first time that Billy mentions the child's name is in measure 36, the beginning of the transition into the first lyric movement. It can be seen that the name of the child in his mind cements his vision and allows the number to move from the unfinished B minor to a solid, completely formed G major. The name Bill is sung through 3 of the 6 measures of the transition, then exclaimed at the same time as the last chord before the allegro. The first lyric movement, My Boy Bill, is a song in and of itself. It is an ABA form, with the B section moving from 2/4 to 6/8. The ABA is one of the typical forms in the musical theater verse-chorus numbers, referenced by Fort. However, Wood, in his discussion on the song form used by Rodgers, calls the ABA form a hybrid chorus. Using the rubric established in Wood's study, the proportions of this song within a song qualify as a macro chorus, as each section is as long as a standard chorus. This makes the whole My Boy Bill section the size of 3 standard choruses strung together. This extraordinary length mirrors the extended length of the first section, if that section is viewed as a verse.
My boy Bill, I will see that he's named after me. I will. My boy Bill, he'll be tall and as tough as a tree. Well, Bill, like a tree, he'll grow with his head held high and his feet planted firm on the ground. And you won't see nobody dare to try to boss him or toss him around. Oh, Potbelly Maggie, I bully, will boss him around. I don't give a damn what he does, as long as he does what he likes. He can sit on his tail or work on a rail with a hammer hammering spikes. He can ferry a boat on a river, or pedal a pack on his back, or work up and down the streets of a town with a whip and a horse and a hack. He can haul a scow along the canal, run a cow around a corral, or maybe balk for a carousel. Of course, it takes talent to do that well. He might be the champ of the heavyweights, or a fella that sells you glue, or president of the United States. That'll be all right, too. His mother would like that, but he wouldn't be president unless he wanted to be. Not Bill. My boy Bill, he'll be tall and as tough as a tree. Well, Bill, like a tree, he'll grow with his head held high and his feet planted firm on the ground. And you won't see nobody dare to try to boss him or toss him around. Oh, fat-bottom, flabby-faced, Any baggy-eyed bastard will boss him around.
The ABA form fits nicely into the larger formal constraints of La Solita Forma and the typical form of the first lyric movement. It seems that Rodgers is using the hybrid chorus format to create a section that would still have a recognizable form for musical theater audiences, while still superimposing that form into the larger La Solita Forma format. In operatic form, the adagio, or the first lyric movement, has three parts: a proposta, a riposta, and a coda section. The second A section of My Boy Bill serves as the coda. As a direct repeat of the first A section, it does not have any new text, but still does not carry the musical motion to a complete stop or have repeated cadences in the tonic. Those typical coda actions are impossible if Rodgers is to maintain the hybrid chorus format. Thus, he deformed the verse-chorus format in La Solita Forma to create a number that would fit under the expressive aegis of the Carousel. Until the end of the My Boy Bill section, the number fits into two formal models: the hybrid verse-chorus and the La Solita Forma. From the verse-chorus point of view, each of the sections is greatly expanded, almost to the point of being unrecognizable. The transition into the tempo di mezzo also illustrates the deformation of the musical theater form. This greater length is one of the first indications that the verse-chorus format, even on its largest level, is an inappropriate framework for the number. If Soliloquy were a normal, if very large, musical number, the end of the second A section would be the end of the number or transition back to the verse. But instead of a strong cadence that is typical for the end of both the hybrid chorus form and the first lyric movement, the transition into the next section is a deceptive cadence. The Poco pumoso at measure 152 begins the next section. The rhythm is somewhat like the opening rhythmic motif, but is missing a beat. This creates a strong triple grouping, which is in conflict with the stated time signature of alla breve. The shortened pattern is also reminiscent of a waltz, which, as Swain in the Broadway musical details, winds musically through the show. The triple grouping gives out after 2 repetitions, allowing the harmonic motion to line up with the hypermeter of the sung phrase every second bar. This temporal phrase shift illustrates Billy's mental torment as he suddenly shifts his focus away from Bill and towards a personal situation. He states that Bill won't marry his boss's daughter, probably referring to the situation that Billy was in before he met Julie. Billy was sleeping with his boss, Mrs. Mullen. The torment and declaration that his son won't be in the same situation takes Billy's focus away from the child and back onto himself and the others surrounding the child. This, combined with the move to A minor in measure 152, clearly delineates this section as a return to kinetic, dramatic energy instead of static reflection. It is the change from static to kinetic that makes this section the tempo di mezzo. The section contrasts with the previous movement both dramatically and musically. As mentioned, the main function of the tempo di mezzo is to motivate the move to the cabaletta through the addition of information that causes drastic and usually irreversible change. This change comes in measure 190, when Billy realizes the child might be a girl instead of a boy. This is underpinned by Billy's next line, "Bill, oh Bill." The stage direction speaks, utterly broken-hearted by the thought, and the addition of a mournful solo violin. The violin can be seen as a performative musical act, demonstrating Billy's mourning for his son while he speaks lines that have to do with the idea of a female child. The performative musical act is an operatic genre, creating agency in the orchestra to dictate the sincere feelings of the singer. This allows the spoken dialogue, focusing on the girl child, to prefigure the musical and thus emotional text. Billy can then be seen in 2 conceptual temporalities at once. His mental processes are in progressive time due to the spoken lines, but his emotional processes are still in lyric time, where the violin is expressing his true feelings. Even though Billy might be speaking about a female child, the orchestra illustrates that his heart is still with Bill. This also illustrates the return to a kinetic dramatic structure. Billy openly doubts the worth of and his ability to care for a female child in the beginning of the section. This move is underpinned by the return of the opening rhythmic motive without any deformation, and the solo violin uses Billy's first melody from the tempo datato. The return of this material creates the same situation as that in the first movement. Billy is again creating a conception of his child, but this time as a girl. Billy reverts right back to Morning when he sings, "You can have fun with a son, but you have to be a father to a girl." Billy has yet to completely open his mind to the idea of a female child, shown again by the differing descriptors used for the two genders. When speaking about Bill, Billy uses son, a descriptor that inherently assumes paternity and ownership. When speaking about the unnamed female child, he uses the term girl, which does not inherently express ownership or kinship. The movement begins to point, musically and dramatically, towards the cabaletta in measure 210. The melody of the opening section gives way to expansive romantic chords as Billy starts to sing about what he will do if he has a female child. Measure 210, moreover, initiates the move to F major, the key of the cabaletta, and away from the A minor tempo di mezzo. The pivotal line, "What if he is a girl?" can also be seen as the point where the hybrid verse-chorus form fails. Until measures 189 through 190, the large-scale form could have been a hybrid verse-chorus form. But most musical theater numbers do not dramatize active thought processes, and so do not contain any point where the character would change their mind. Musical theater numbers can be used as persuasion, but once the character or characters agree, they join in the number already in process. Singing together is a musical theater signifier for tacit approval between the parties that are singing together, whether in chorus, community, or duet, even if the sentiment is rejected once the song ends. To mirror Billy's active thought process, the large-scale form changes its mind as well on the pivotal line, "What if he is a girl?" From that point onward, the number cannot be thought of as any kind of verse-chorus form, but must be interpreted in la Solita Forma. The formal modulation itself embodies and signifies the shift of emotions within the number.
And I'm damned if he'll marry his boss's daughter, a skinny-lipped virgin with blood like water, who'll give him a peck and call it a kiss, and look in his eyes through a lorgnette. Say, why am I taking on like this? My kid ain't even been born yet. I can see him when he's 17 or so, and starting to go with a girl. I can give him lots of pointers, very sound, on the way to get around any girl. I can tell him, wait a minute. Could it be? What the hell? What if he is a girl? Oh, Bill. What would I do with her? What could I do for her? A bum with no money. You can have fun with a son, but you gotta be a father to a girl. She mightn't be so bad at that. A kid with ribbons in her hair, a kinda neat and petite little tin type of her mother. What a pair.
The cabaletta begins in measure 222. Soliloquy has already expanded past the normal length of any musical theater number, so everything is unexpected to the audience at this point. In this spirit, the movement steadily moves away from the musical theater genre and towards the operatic genre throughout the section. Billy moves from describing what he would do to describing the female child, a move that mirrors the shift from kinetic to static drama from the tempo tacco to the first lyric movement. Also, as before, the language Billy uses moves from doubting, she mightn't be so bad as that, a kinda neat and petite little tintype of her mother, to using active verbs. When I have a daughter, I'll stand around in bar rooms, oh how I'll boast and blow. This change happens at the same time Billy moves from the detached third-person language to kinship language when speaking about his daughter. At measure 222, Billy stops creating the idea of a daughter and sings about the fully formed conception of the child. The music significantly changes at this point as well. The time signature moves to 4/4, something used only in the beginning of the number. The score is marked broader with warmth, and the dynamic level becomes pianissimo. The number has yet to achieve a pianissimo before this point, marking this section as important and distinct from the others. Also, the broader marking, in combination with the new triplet double neighbor tone pattern, immediately invokes a more romantic and sentimental musical style. Bloch, in Enchanted Evenings, postulates that the triplets signify the expression of love between Billy and Julie. They are used in Soliloquy because they signify the person of Julie in Billy's eyes, and the girl child would be a tintype of her mother. The double neighbor tone undulates around the tonic pitch, signifying a romantic feminine subject, a direct contrast to the metrically straightforward content of the rest of the number. The tension created by the hemiola, previously unseen in this number, underpins the feminine nature of these bars. The double neighbor tone triplet is woven throughout the beginning of the cabaletta, inextricably linking the girl child to Julie, just as the boy child was linked to Billy. The triplets, as a projection of love, are a performative musical act, so their use is an operatic genre. The alternation of motives that are against and then intrinsic to the prevailing rhythm keep the markedness of the triplets. Using the same pitches in measures 222 to 224 highlights the rhythm rather than the motive as the prevailing marked figure. This sincerity motivates the drastic, and for a musical, revolutionary change that Billy experiences leading into the ritornello. Rodgers deforms the form at this point to illustrate the depth of change in Billy. He uses completely new music to signify the new man. Measure 245 begins an ominous 9-measure chromatic descent from juxtaposed F octaves to B flat octaves in the bass. This descent moves the key center from F major, the key of My Little Girl section, to B flat major. This descent is the epitome of a performative musical act, signifying Billy's descent from the rarefied atmosphere of love into the more realistic depths of determination. The severe descent also foreshadows Billy's ultimate death in an untimely robbery while trying to provide for his unborn daughter. Billy joins in measure 249 with the ultimate motivation for the stark change. I gotta get ready before she comes. His list of necessities is accompanied by shattering tutti orchestra chords on the downbeat of each bar in measures 257 to 260. The aggressive orchestra is signifying Billy's determination to make a change. The tessitura of the vocal part rises during these measures, straying higher than any point in the song, never to descend again. The higher tessitura, especially in the male voice, signifies determination and certainty in the operatic genre. The arrival of the fifth above the tonic is the apogee of the process, arriving at the tail end of the aria and signifying certain victory. Billy's victory is premature. He reaches the fifth above the tonic, F natural, on the word money, his stated nemesis and the thing that is preventing him from providing for his unborn daughter. I never knew how to get money. Billy then repeatedly sings the F natural for 5 bars, obliterating its signification and turning it into just another note. At the cadenza, Billy has nowhere to go except past the tonic ceiling, and thus past the image of society. Billy's highest note in the show, a G natural, appears where the most important dominant chord should appear, right before the last tonic. But instead of a dominant, the subdominant E flat appears in its place at the climactic point. This completely subverts the normal process of the heroic ending, falling short of expectations. Billy sings the G natural on the word take, as he is describing what he'll do to get money. I'll go out and make it, or steal it, or take it, or die. The use of the subdominant chord on the word take signifies Billy's deadly predicament. Falling short of the dominant signifies and foreshadows Billy's ultimate failure in society, while the high G natural signifies Billy's removal from society and his overestimation of his own abilities. This deformation of the common tonal procedure delves deeply into operatic genre and is typical of Verdian operatic techniques. Billy returns down to the high F natural to finish out the ending in the tonic, with orchestral bluster worthy of any Italian opera composer. This return to the normative procedure without being altered by the anomalous chord signifies Billy's ignorance of his own weakness. The orchestra is thus in the thrall of the performative musical act. It is portraying Billy's confidence, however misguided.
As peaches and cream is she, my little girl is half again as bright as girls are meant to be. Dozens of boys pursue her, many a likely lad does what he can to lure her from her faithful dad. She has a few pink and white young fellows two and three, but my little girl gets hungry every night, and she comes home to me. My little girl, my little girl, I gotta get ready before she comes. I gotta make certain that she won't be dragged up in slums with a lot of bums like me. She's gotta be sheltered and fed and dressed in the best that money can buy. I never knew how to get money, but I'll try, my God, I'll try. I'll go out and make it, or steal it, or take it, or die.
The entire end of the cabaletta is steeped in the operatic genre, to the point where any remaining vestiges of musical theater genre are eradicated. Billy's move from reflexive and self-centered to selfless, earnest, and direct emotions is accomplished by the total annihilation of the musical theater genre and the complete embrace of the operatic genre. This means that Rodgers used the operatic genre to transmit sincere and deep emotion in ways that were impossible with the musical theater genre. Thank you for joining me in this video about the meaning behind Carousel's Soliloquy. This was part of my dissertation, and I hope to continue these types of discussions with other works of musical theater. Like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more. What do you want to learn about next? Leave me a comment down below. You can also support the making of these videos on Patreon. These videos take over 20 hours of research to complete, so Patreon is a great way to show your support. The bibliography for this video can be found on my website, dominguegraham.com. Interested in seeing my process? I document it on my social media, so follow me for more updates. My handles are listed below. Thanks again, and see you in my next video.